Good evening, everybody. Tonight is a special night for me. I'm very, very happy to be here. Of course, we all know one another. This is a wonderful, world famous Bum Bully family. If you're a bully, put a little muscle up in the chat, put a little something in the chat just to let us know that you're here. I'm so happy that you all have decided to take a moment tonight because this is a special treat. I don't know really any communities doing things like this. So thank you all for kind of taking the time to hang out tonight. Tonight, we're blessed and very, very privileged to have Marc Walther with us. Marc Walther is the CEO of IFUS. IFUS is a publicly traded company. And it's so exciting the type of work that they're doing, especially at a time like this. Okay. Most of the times when we talk about exciting companies, we're talking about tech. We're talking about the latest AI innovation, right? And me being, how many big city folks we have here? We're in Miami, New York, Chicago. Y'all make some noise in the chat if the big city folks are here. We're the big city folk. Big city folks, I see you. I see you. Okay, we got Wanda's big. Okay, we got Chicago Pet. I see you. These are big city folks. But I've recently moved to a whole different state where you really realize what moves our economy. It's not the glitz and the glamour. It's not the tech and the AI. It's oil and cows. I'm just gonna say it. Oil and cows, man. Oil and cow moves the needle. Every Tuesday, every Thursday, every Wednesday, we're learning about these kind of significant announcements. And tonight, with Marc, we have a chance to jump in. Not only is he the CEO, but he's the head creator of a product called SGP Plus that's changing the industry. He's done things internationally with different boards. He's done things at the collegiate level, making sure that universities have great representation and stuff like that. So without any further ado, I'd like you all to make some noise if you can, like put some fire emojis, put some claps, put some stuff in the chat for Mr. Marc Walther. Y'all start making some noise. Marc, how you doing?
I'm doing excellent, Jason. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm not sure if you can see the chat, but the chat is going crazy. We got fire emojis and hand claps and all kinds of stuff like that going
Excellent.
because we're very, very excited to have you. I want to jump right in because I don't want to waste time. I really want to dig in, because it's a rare opportunity to speak to someone like you in your position. Give
Thank
me
you.
give me the Reader's Digest version of IFUS. What's going on? What does the company do? How did it get started? The whole nine.
Well, it all started with horses. And a lot of the race horses, when they were done with their race career, they were set out into the pasture. And as soon as you started seeing their bones and their ribs, they were probably going to die of tie up. And so this product actually put the minerals and the mastic and back into their diets.
Mhm.
What I saw, because I had two parents that died very young of cancer, and I took care of them. I'd do it again. But I started seeing that the food that we eat is terrible. It so I This formula is an ancient formula that goes back thousands of years, with the mastic and the minerals and the all of the things that are contained in the product. So I
Mhm.
started looking at not only horses but humans. It went from that to animals, and then it went to humans, and then I did a reverse takeover on a public company. And I come from that's my second takeover that I did. And I, coming from a background of 45 years in um, financing companies and, buying companies in multiple countries and so forth, I saw that if you have an idea, it's hard to get it done in a bank. A bank doesn't like ideas. They don't like gray. They like black
Mm.
or white. And so what I saw is with a public company that I could take ideas. So my last idea was taking lasers and pre-treating steel. It was phenomenal. And this one was something that taking this ancient formula and turbocharging it. And I can tell you that I'm not a brilliant man. I'm just a guy that is not afraid to take chances. I fall in crap and I come out with my tux on. And I said, and if you don't experience life that way, then you're not experiencing life. Give it a
Mm,
shot. So I have a rule with myself, and the rule is that what I do must bring hope. I don't bring false hope. False hope I can't do. So I bring only hope. So watch a person's face, watch an animal's face. If you take away their hope, they get this look in their eye, and it's hard to get them back. So
yeah.
when I looked at this formula, um, I thought to myself, you know what? What's a number one thing that a doctor says when they've checked your liver out or they've checked your body out? Everything's intact.
Right.
It's a medical term. So I thought, that's a great name for our product because we affect so many things in so many mammals that so to call it intact digest, that was really my first step to say that everybody's having digestive problems. What's the problem? The problem is the food. The food we
Mm,
eat is, when you deep fry something, deep fried in the South, and I live near New Orleans right now. That's where our plant is. When you look at deep frying, it used to be deep frying was with beef tallow, and my grandmother used to save the grease from her bacon and put it back in the fridge.
of
Then
course.
she take it out, cook with it again.
Of
And
course.
now they use rapeseed oil, which comes out of Canada and the Ukraine. Ukraine, by the way, produces 40% of the grain in the world, and I don't see too many farmers there right now.
Mhm.
And so a lot of it is coming out of Canada, and it is a genetically modified product. So what happens with genetically modified products? Your liver, which cannot be reproduced by an engineer, I'm one, and you can reproduce a heart and you can reproduce a kidney, but you can't reproduce a liver. A liver does everything in milliseconds. And right now, our livers are taxed. And when I was at a slaughterhouse in Texas, and I
Okay.
said, I said to the guy, I said, what's your biggest problem right now? He said, livers. I said, livers? What do you mean? He said, I can't sell a liver, cow's liver, for dog food. They won't take
Mm,
it. The livers
mm,
are so diseased. So he showed me a picture, as gross as that is, and it was a 6 foot man holding it up to his shoulders, and it reached the floor. Well, livers aren't supposed to be that big. I mean, it'd be oversized if it was a third of that. And so the livers right now, the ranchers are losing that weight because the guy's not going to pay for that weight of the liver. He's only going to pay for the meat. And so now you can buy a calf's liver, but the calf hasn't been given all the drugs. So when I go to a lot of our people that health food stores, I usually tell them, I said, you guys are very lucky. And they look at me kind of funny. I said, no, I really mean it because everybody's coming to you right now because they can't afford a doctor. They don't,
mm,
the drugs aren't working for them.
mm.
And a lot of these uh, things that we have, like oils and so forth, they sort of work, but unless your body is intact and you are processing things with 72 ionic minerals and mastic, which goes back to the Book of Enoch, and
Mhm.
they've been using it for everything from surgeries to back thousands of years ago they were using it for dental disease because people
Right.
would die of dental infections and mastic would kill it. So I started looking at testing individuals things that like mastic, and I found that mastic kills bacteria, H. pylori to be specific, and which is in all of us, including your dogs and your
Right.
cats. And I looked at it kills H. pylori before, during, and after you introduce it to the bacteria.
Mhm.
So it's phenomenal. So when I started putting it all together, I put magnesium in it, which is in every cell of your body. But everything I have in the product is ionic. What does that mean? It's the electrical of your body. If you don't have ionic minerals, then you don't have everything clicking. For instance, when you take an iron pill, if you don't have selenium and one other ionic mineral, then what happens is it passes through. So I looked at simple things. That's how my brain works. I'm simple. I look at things like people that make porta johns. Their biggest problem is they have to stop every hour to get rid of all the vitamins, the supplements that aren't going through. They're going through whole. So their filters are plugging up. So what's wrong with this? That's a multi-billion-dollar market for things that we're not digesting. And then
Yeah.
when we go to fast food, like fried foods. I can't eat fried foods anymore. I accidentally had fried catfish the other night, and I almost threw up in the restaurant. My body just wouldn't take it because
Right.
fried foods are not the fried foods that we had when we were a kid. They're done with rapeseed oil, and so now I did this reverse takeover on this company, and they had a bad idea, and they happened to have a sugar mill. And sometimes our creator directs you places that you never thought you'd go.
Right.
But it's a 150-year-old sugar mill. So I said to my wife, I said, I should really go out there and see it. I haven't seen it yet, and it's really not in my business plan. But I got out there, and the thing I saw, it was huge. We have like 75 acres out there, and a couple of lakes, and lots of alligators, and every bug you can think of. And so I remember walking in the building, and I I said, Lord, what do you want me to do with this thing? And it was, like I said, it was huge. Then I started looking around, and sugarcane bagasse, they call it bagasse, which is a French word, is everywhere. It's piling up, and they don't know what to do with it. And it's some of it's got bacteria in it, some of it doesn't, but it will. And then all of a sudden, I started looking at, okay, there was a shortage of feed at the time, which is worse now. It's the worst it's ever been.
Right. Right.
And if anybody wants to watch a thing on Amazon, it is Common Ground, and the other one is Kiss the Ground. And it talks about what's going on in the cattle industry and in the feed industry. And that's a whole different subject. But so I had a group come over that from Texas. They're now one of our test ranches. We got two of them, one in Oklahoma and one in Texas. And they were looking for feed of some kind. Now, cattle won't eat bagasse. They just don't eat it, but they'll eat SGP plus. And the reason why I call it SGP plus is because I don't want it to be called bagasse. Bagasse is one of the ingredients, but so are a lot of other things. And what does
Mhm.
this product entail? It entails the Nutramastic, and then I found something about bagasse that it was phenomenal. I don't forget stuff. I might play it back, but I don't forget it. And that bagasse, it holds water like a cup, but as soon as oil is introduced to it, it pushes the water out of the way, and the oil gets sucked into the fiber. Well,
Mhm.
I make Nutramastic, which is an oil and a water that I mix, and it never separates ever. And what do they tell you in high school? In basic, oil and
Well,
water
water
don't
don't
mix.
mix.
It does when I do it. That's what I do, and it never separates ever. Never
Wow.
ever separates, and it never grows bacteria, and it kills the bacteria. Um, so I really started getting into that, and our intact nutrition line. If anybody's got problems health wise, your body can't repair itself unless it's repaired itself. And
Mm.
I hope that makes sense to people. So I get calls all the time, and people post stuff on our website that just simple things like our bodies are loaded with ammonia. We're eating way too much protein. So, for instance, the average bodybuilder is probably at 150 milligrams of protein, and you should be down to 20 or 40. Why aren't you? Because you're not absorbing it. So, what ends up happening is your bodies are loaded with ammonia. So, for instance, the degradation chain is nitrogen, ammonia, and then urea. Urea is P. Ammonia is in our bodies, so when you get gout, that's ammonia. So when
Right.
you get, so what are your kidneys processing? I, you know, Kidney dialysis companies are almost in strip malls.
Yeah,
They're
they're everywhere.
and it's because of what we eat. We're eating way too much protein, and we're eating the wrong kind of food. So what ends up happening is that one of the things when you start trying our product is you'll smell ammonia. You'll smell ammonia in both ways you go to the bathroom. You'll smell it when you sweat, and it's starting to come out of your body now. And if your kidneys don't get the proper degradation of ammonia in your body, it needs to be urea. Then what ends up happening, in my opinion, is your kidneys they get burnt, and so you have kidney problems, and
Hmm.
even I started running into things like um, cows get what they call hairy foot wart. That's gout. That's gout. That's too much ammonia. They're giving them too much protein. They're not eating it. And I'll give you a really key point after this. So
Hmm.
when they eat that, that happens to humans too. So in 24 hours, when somebody takes the product, what they're telling me on my website, and I have to be careful with this, that it takes care of gout in about 24 hours.
Now, I've heard these kind of things when I did my research on what was going on with the product. The the fact, I think one of the first fascinations was that humans were using it, and then it was having, I guess, cross success, whether it was applied to large herds of animals or to an individual. I think that's very exciting, but I want to kind of back up. Are you just a kid that's still trying to heal mom and dad? Because my mom passed away of breast cancer in 2008. And
Mhm.
I remember reading through so many articles trying to understand what was wrong. I read so many journals. I learned about intravenous vitamin C, iron and iron therapy, chemo replacements or alternatives, stronger ones, things being done internationally. Somehow or another, you use the engineering background that you have, and you use your finance background too, but it feels like you're still just healing. Is that
Yeah,
what
just
you said?
you remember what your mom's face looked like when she was dying?
I do.
And I remember my mom and my dad when they were dying, and there's not a damn thing I could do. I
Right.
was I was just an 18-year-old kid, and my mom, I kept her around for 17 years, and I learned a lot from her because I
Yeah.
do those playbacks. I said, "Yeah, I remember you told me about that," and
Hmm.
so that's why I have the rule with myself is that I give people hope. I never give false hope. I will
Hmm.
never lie to you. I'll tell you what I know, and the one thing I don't want to take away is your hope. So you look
Hmm.
at anybody that there's so many people that are sick now that you see that they don't know what to do. All they're to be given is drugs, and it's not making it better. Sometimes it's making it a little better, but it all comes down to they're hopeless. So when I
Hmm.
tell these people, like at these health stores that I call on, is that you need to help people bring their body intact. You bring it intact, then all these stuff that's out on your shelf will work. They'll work better than what they've ever worked. And to get rid of acid reflux, we've got it on our bottle, and it says right there. It says that it gets rid of acid reflux. How fast does it get rid of acid reflux? I can tell you from personal experience, about 20 seconds, and it does. So when I look at all that and the ammonia part, and then I look at now we'll switch over to cattle if you don't mind.
Sure, sure. I would love to talk about the
Yeah.
kingdom. In fact, with the secretary's announcement yesterday, I wanted to get into the application of not just individual use, but inside of the cattle as well.
Well, it's and I got to ask you, everybody that you know,
Mhm.
we can get rid of screw flies, and
For the
so
people who don't know, break that down. What is a screw fly? Screw fly? What is the problem, and how big is it? How much does it cost people every year?
it's according to the Secretary of State of Agriculture, it's billions. And
Mm.
and so I'm gonna give you a quick scenario. Screw flies used to be radiated, and they would radiate them and then let them go around Panama because
Okay.
we never really had cattle that were coming to the United States. But now we're sitting on a herd that is probably less than 1951. Can you believe that?
It's crazy.
That we've got very little cattle. So what's happening is that the little guy that's got 100 to 150, he can't stay in business. If he thinks he's going to be in business, it's only because he's using his savings. And I can take you down from 350 a head down to 45 cents. And
Whoa.
that's a different subject, but I can tell you that. But if you
Whoa.
guys know anybody that is in the news media, we have a we have the answer to screw flies. We have the answer to flies, and I'm going to tell you how. So now that they're bringing all these cattle up here to fill these feedlots, which are down 45%, and I'll bet you it's more than that. And these feedlots are bringing in cattle from the south, from Mexico and below down in Brazil.
Hmm.
And these screw flies drill into flesh, and they prosper in manure, and then the fly will go up and lay its larva in the flesh of the cow. It could be an open wound. It could be just a mama's a heifer's the bag of milk. And now they're finding that they even go into humans. I've talked to a few people that have had that. They're very painful.
Mm.
And so they're looking for, in fact, today there's something on Fox News that they had that um, the Secretary of Agriculture said, "Well, we solved the problem. We're not going to let any cattle come up from the south." Well, you know what? I don't know how you're going to stop it because these feedlots are empty. There's some feedlots that are going out of business, and
Wow.
and right now the only thing they have to feed, this is a side note, that they have to feed the animals is their own manure mixed with corn, whole corn. And what do they do with the whole corn? Well, it's just like you. When you eat whole corn, it goes right through you, comes out the other side the same way.
Yeah.
And so they're feeding the manure, which they think if the manure came out, it must have had value. So we'll just give it corn because that's what cows like. And so they're feeding cows at feedlots manure and corn.
Mm.
I don't want one of those steaks, to tell you the truth.
No, no, that doesn't sound like my kind of ribeye.
No. So one day at one of our test ranches, and I don't forget stuff. So this young lady was there, and she said, "Mr. Mark, I can't smell the cow crap." And sure enough, you couldn't. Now I got a great science department, man. The guy's got a 30-point higher average than Einstein, and he's very very intelligent. He's got 4 doctorates in science,
Wow.
and not including his masters, and he's also other things. But so I went back to him and I said, "What do you think about that?" He says, "Well, that if you're not getting any smell, then you're getting proper digestion." So then we started seeing that there are no flies. I don't know if you've ever been around cows, but flies are like synonymous.
Everywhere.
I think God
Everywhere.
made their tail to swat flies, and,
Yeah.
and there are no flies on our either one of our test ranches, and
Mm.
that's because there's a thing called furfural, and furfural is undigested lignin, and lignin is the most prolific protein source outside of shellfish in the world. And what is bagasse made of? It's made of lignin. And so we have a 500-page report that we're just finishing. It's a book that proves that everything we're doing is there's science for it. There's
Now,
science all over
let
the
me
all
let
over
me
the world.
stop you right there. I know that you have the connections out in India and you're working on that, and you have things going on at the university. I want to say you're at Southern too. With these sort of trials and clinical tests, at what date are we expecting to get those official, I guess, reports, third-party reports? Because typically what investors or the market is looking for is somebody who can corroborate the claim of a CEO like yourself. Your financial structure is good, the product is good, people are liking it, you've made claims, but everybody's waiting for it to be backed up. What is the timeline on that, and how are you hastening that moment?
Well, we're hoping that the screw fly situation with the USDA is they're going to recognize they're testing right now at Texas A&M and for the screw fly and for flies.
Mhm.
The problem that I think all the people that you know, the answer doesn't come down from the USDA. That it just if a problem is solved, it comes from the people that are desperate, and that are
Mm,
people at the bottom.
mm,
So the other thing is that the colleges work at college pace. They recognize that we do what we do. They're using it for fertilizer, they're using it for animal feed, but they still move at a university pace.
right.
And when summer comes, everybody goes home.
It slows down a little more.
Yeah, so I don't ever expect unless, I expect the USDA to come up with something. I hope they don't ignore us. That's what
Mm.
I'm saying. If anybody knows anybody, let the news media know that we have the answer to screw flies.
So if the way of growth isn't top down for you as a CEO, then an innovative man like yourself, if it's a bottom up approach, what is the lattice or what is the go-to-market strategy to ensure that ranchers, farmers, feedlots, and everybody understands the power of SPG Plus? And what are you planning on doing it? And what's the timeline there?
The timeline there is really has to do with desperation of the market. Right now, our market meaning beef,
Yes.
and even the health of a human being or a dog or a cat is that's what's going to drive people to us, and that is what's driving people to us now.
Yes.
So when I look at countries that have sugarcane bagasse, there's a list on our website that you can pull up, and out of I think I've got the top 50. The United States, by the way, is probably number 10.
Right.
India produces 405 million tons of sugarcane bagasse. The United States only creates 29 million tons.
Right.
It's we're going off the chart. And so any country that has bagasse or sugarcane bagasse, they're all trying to find a way because we're the only one that can depolymerize and degrade bagasse to an edible form. So if I look at the business plan as it goes by country, it's enormous.
Mm,
Um, and so we've had very good results in India. Um, there is plenty of activity. I've even met with our scientists, myself, met with their NDDB, which is their dairy board, and at about 12:30 at night because they're the opposite time. And so I see all the product lines, even we have the Supreme AG, which is for fertilizer. That's
yeah.
kind of pulling me by the neck because you can read books that go back to the early 1900s, and they talk about oil-based fertilizers cause cancer. That was their words. In fact, the book that I read that I had to get out of Oxford was called Soil, Grass, and Cancer. And he wrote it in 1950. And what he was saying is that oil-based fertilizers, stay away from them. And there's a lot of reasons why, and it would take another meeting of why.
Yeah.
But we're finding that it's changing the soil. Our product changes the soil. And
Mm,
so if you got sandy colored soil, all of a sudden it's dark colored. Um, Similar to finish the story on cattle, what we're finding is that the USDA says, based on what a guy named Dr. Wells came up with a manure scoring program, and you should have number 3 cow pies. And you can see what they are on our website. We have pictures of them. And if you have a number 3 cow pie, that's the perfect digestion, although it's not telling the rest of the story. But you'll get a number 3 cow pie in about a week with
Wow.
ours. You'll
Wow.
get no flies in about 16 days initially, and no smell within about that same period of time. So I had our test ranch take the cows off of our product, and it took about 30 days for it to come back, and all the flies would come back and the smell and everything else. Then we put them back on it, and it took 16 days for it to all go away. So
Wow.
so it works. Now, input output is something I've always understood.
Mhm.
What goes in and what goes out, I don't care if you got a factory or whatever, it tells you what's going on. And so if I can take our feed and so if you're a guy writing a check, and I always love the statement that I'd rather sign the back of a check than the front of a check.
Okay.
So if you're a guy at a rancher and you got all your expenses, you got minerals and you got a protein source and you've got hay and you've also got you're feeding them grass. And if you're feeding them grass, it comes out their back end like a hose. So that means they're not digesting anything.
Exactly. It's running through.
And and so I had a guy, a friend of mine, he says early on, he said, you know what? I think I'm going to get out of the business. And he had 100 Brangus, which are like a Black Angus type look. And I said, well, how come? He said, I can't afford it. He said, my hay, I'm spending about 350 a head. And he said, I just can't make money. And so I said, well, I'll tell you what, let's try this. So we tried uh, using 80% SGP plus and
Mhm.
20% soy and no hay, no minerals, no mineral source. And that's huge cost, huge cost. And I've got all the minerals, all 72 ionic minerals and trace minerals in our product. So you don't
Right.
need minerals. And so the bottom line is he went down to 45 cents. That's all it took. And
Wow.
you'll talk to a lot of ranchers. One guy up in Mississippi, he's got maybe about 100 head, and he says, this is the first year I've had no vet costs. My cattle have been healthy, and people are coming over saying, "Hey, your cattle look really good." And what they eat is a combination of grass,
Hmm.
and they can digest it now because I'm giving them the ability to do that. But they've cut down all those costs that are driving these people out of business.
Right.
So right now, what's catching everybody, the average rancher is 72 years old, and his kids really don't want to take over the
Absolutely not.
not enough money in it.
Right.
And so what they're doing is that, man, I got a really good price for my cattle. And price of cattle is way up. In fact, in the store, watch for that too. It's going to go way up.
Yes.
And so I said to the guy, I said, I said the problem with that, it's like Detroit, where I come from, that you sold your used car and you got a really good price. Now buy a new one. You get sticker shock. And so new cattle right now are really high priced. And the you're getting for cattle that you're selling off in
Mhm.
your herd is you get a great price, but your replacement cost is terrible. So what ends up happening is these guys that are in their 70s, again, that is the average guy that is a rancher, they're just getting out of the business. They can't afford to get back in. Our test ranch, one of them said out of 300 head, they sold 145. And I said, okay. And he said, man, he couldn't believe the price I got. I said, I know. But then I gave him the scenario of Detroit. You got to sell your used car, you get a great price, but try buying a new one. And so he said, well, what should I do? I said, well, the industry is going to force you to do something. He said, what's that? You're now in the calf business. You've got to grow your herd again. And the only way you're going to do it is with your calves. And so with what we have found with our product, there's a product in there called lysine. And if you look up anybody that's got a dairy, lysine is really important. It's milk production.
Right.
And so the bag of milk within about a couple of weeks, when a heifer mama cow is is going to have her calf.
Yes.
Her bag will be twice as big. It'll be it'll be leaking because the lysine is there, and we're creating a very nutritious um, a milk that has for the first 90 days, the colostrum is where the calf gets its all of its stuff from the mama cow. It's
Yes.
and the same thing happens to a human. Same thing happens to a human. So what I'm finding is that people are coming back that are having trouble when they have kids and they're not lactating, and they got enough milk now to breast pump.
Right.
And
Right.
I
For
and I
sure.
and they're flabbergasted, but it happens. So that is
Uh-huh.
that's what we're finding in the product, and
Okay.
so we're hoping that, and I'm always out preaching the gospel of Nutramastic and Supreme Goods and SGP Plus, but I'm hoping that it catches on with somebody. It has to. Uh,
Okay. Okay.
it,
Here we are then. I okay, let's just say I'm just walking in off the street. I have a pretty good idea of what's going on in the industry, and I have a pretty good idea, and I've got money to invest. Let's just say that that's the situation. For the next maybe, if it's 7:39, for maybe the next 5 to 10 minutes, I want to ask you an array of questions, and then after that, we'll open up questions for people in the audience. So if you have a question in the audience, I want you to drop it in the chat because we want to take those questions. So we'll go to sort of like Mark, we'll go to sort of like a quick fire round, that sort of thing, okay?
okay.
Because what I'm trying to do is a few things as an investor. I'm trying to judge the product. I'm trying to judge the person that's driving the company to see if they got a good horse or a bad jockey, or is it a good jockey and a bad horse? I'm trying to figure out exactly where I should place my bets. So engineering and finance, explain how those two help you build this business to the next level that you want to go to.
Well, from the engineering standpoint, um, I the equipment that I have in my building I built, and I can put that footprint anywhere in the world. So all the
Mhm.
places that have sugarcane bagasse, I can put it there in probably less than 90 days and have it functioning. I do a lot of things to the machinery, but it's our technology. And so, from an engineering standpoint, I've got one machine that was actually out in the field, and I brought it in, rebuilt it, and it's ready to run. It's running, I should say. So that's where the engineering helps. What was your other side of the question?
The other side of the question was the finance background, your ability to acquire, your ability to understand market sentiment, et cetera.
Well, from a finance standpoint, that's where public companies are very good, and in a lot of cases, I have raised probably probably almost $750,000 in in capital
Hmm.
to actually go out and develop all this stuff.
Okay.
Um, I have every product on the shelf. Well, that costs money. And it's highly profitable. All the products are highly profitable, whether it be the SGP Plus or even the Intact Digest and Intact Endurance, highly
Right.
profitable. So, and I think that's one thing when I went over to other countries, they were flabbergasted at what they could produce cattle feed for out of sugarcane. Um, from an engineering standpoint, I had to look at I can't just sell it loose. I have to be competitive on freight. I don't care who you are, what product you're making. It's still part of your product is freight,
Yeah.
because even though um, your customer pays the freight, it's still part of the cost of doing business with you.
Of course.
So I
Of course.
went to a company, and because I needed to be able to ship 50,000 pounds on a flatbed. If I couldn't, then I wasn't competing with all the other products that, frankly, are not as good as ours,
Right.
uh, and even alfalfa. Alfalfa is very expensive, and we're better than alfalfa. But I needed to bring the cost of shipping down, so I got a hold of a guy that actually makes bags that could fit a helicopter. And so what I ended up doing is I developed a bagging system that, as it comes off the machine, a 2,200 pound bale that's huge
Yeah.
drops into the bag, and then we take a strap that is used in the agricultural business, that and we strap the bale and we put it on the floor. And it's an incredible technology. And now all of a sudden it brings the cost of shipping down for me, right, competitive, in fact, more competitive than most,
Wow.
because I
Wow.
can put 50,000 pounds instead of shipping a walking floor trailer or a dump trailer that only has between 11 and 17,000 pounds. Big difference.
Yeah.
So the engineering part does it, but I can tell you that being a public company, and being able to have people believe in your idea and want to invest in your idea. Now, when you buy off the stock market, that that never touches me.
Of
Uh,
course.
but
Of
but if you bought private placement stock, which I'm not conveying that you do, is that is something that's where you can raise capital for an idea. So most ideas are shoved on a shelf and
Mhm.
never found out because they couldn't get financed. And the guy that runs it is usually a CEO that is also the guy that invented it, like me, that um, that really couldn't get the money to finance the project. And I've talked to a lot of them over the years that wanted my help, and and it really is something that that helps the finance end of it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'd have to go to a bank and
Right.
get $5 million loan, and then they want collateral, and it's just,
No, no, okay. It's foolishness. Let me
yeah.
ask you a question then. Tell me a little bit about, right now, I think market cap is maybe 38.5 million or something like that on the share price. And that's just what we could see over the counter. However, I do understand the private placement and things that you're doing behind, well, underneath the hood a little bit. But tell me a little bit about how you get the message out about Impact Fusion. Do you have like a team or expansion team and expansion schedule, ideas about the people that you're going to bring on, customers that you're aiming at right now, anybody that's close to signing with you that you can share, so that we can kind of see, okay, in the next 6 months or year and a half, this is what Mark has got planned for the company, and this is how he plans to grow.
The problem that a person like myself that leads a public company is you can't get too much forward thinking, uh, because it's, again, we were talking about false hope.
Mm-hmm.
And what you'll end up having, and it's been proven over the years, somebody says, "Well, you said you were going to do this, and I bought stock, and you owe me money." Well, no, I don't, and I can't make those kind of projections, because what ends up happening is the SEC's all over you, and so I can't make those kind of predictions. Um, do
But
I?
surely you can tell us about the plans that you have in the company of new plants, if you're in
Right.
developing those, or you can tell me about the team of expansion and people that you have in that way. Surely you can do that.
Yeah, I can. The area that we're expanding to, and I can't give you customers' names, is because I get a lot of shareholders that'll call that customer, and it pisses them off. Um, I want to get feedlots, because feedlots are a big problem right now. It wouldn't take me but one feedlot to show enormous profit. The company is very profitable products. Um, I continue to push and talk about the Nutramastic, or the Intact Digest product.
Yes.
Uh, Now, where we go with other countries where they develop um, sugarcane bagasse, I don't want to own a factory over there in any country. That would be an enormous burden that that a single human being or even a team could not watch over. But we can have a joint venture with somebody where I don't own the factory, I don't employ the people, I don't own the machinery. You do. And
Mm,
you employ the people. Now, what I'm in charge of is I will sell you the Nutramastic and I will implement the proprietary technology that's in the machines. But my guy over there, like with India, is going to be the guy that makes sure that that product comes out the same all the time because that's me. That's our reputation. So all of these countries, like the size of India, could end up being easily 20, 30 plants. They got sugarcane um, plants all over the place.
mhm,
And
mhm.
that could happen because it would require that. Uh,
Right.
I look at Australia. Australia is trying to come up with an answer to depolymerizing and degrading bagasse and making an animal feed. The most they can do now is a steaming process that gets the excess sugar out of the sugar cane, highly costly, and it ends up looking like a dung pile.
Mm,
So could I, am I working on something there? Yes, yes.
okay.
So it depends on the product line, and what I try to do is use my test ranches, like the one in Oklahoma and the one in Jefferson. They have people come in all the time. Why? Because these people, in fact, right down to the people that work on their ranches are shareholders of ours. They came in and they bought shares and they want to be a part of it because they believe in it. So I have a lot of people that go out there, very high end investors that are going into. They went to one just went to Jefferson. A guy came in from Zimbabwe, and
Mm,
when they got there, it was really interesting. They got there and and the cows were all in the fields because they came about 4 o'clock, and they're in the woods eating. And
mhm.
the area that we feed, uh, all of a sudden the rancher, the guy that owns the ranch, he started honking his horn, and that's usually what they come to when they know that they're feeding SG
Of
people.
course. Of course.
And it looked like it was really kind of cool. It was 300 head coming out of the woods. Was that neat? So they were standing around in the feeding area, and none of the cows were coming up to the feeding area because they didn't know the people. And they do, the cows do that. If they don't know who you are, they'll stand off.
Yeah.
And but we said, do you want to go and look at the cows because they have no flies? And the one guy from Zimbabwe says, no, no. He said, if there's no cows in the cow pie, in the manure, why would there be a cow pie? Why would there be flies on the cow? And it's true. A very intelligent observation. And another one of the guys was the same thing. He said, no. He said he was from the United States. Um, he said, no, I don't want to, I don't need to see the cows. I don't need to walk out there. But if they're not here in the feeding area, in the manure, why would they be on the cow? And I thought that was pretty cool.
That makes a lot
And
of sense.
yeah, so anyways, I hope that answered your question.
Oh, yes, it really does. It really does. I want to ask you a question. What do you wish somebody who just regular off the side of the street, just investing, what do you wish they knew about being a CEO of a publicly traded company?
If you're not dedicated to do everything from scrubbing a toilet to feeding a cow to teaching how to make the product in every aspect, then don't be one.
Gotcha. How big is the staff right now?
We got about six people.
Okay. Wow. That is very profitable.
Yeah.
Are there any plans on expanding people? I understand that the processes are truly in place right now. We have production in line, but is there a need for more people at this time?
There will be shortly. The plant that we have probably, if I ran two shifts, I could produce $36 million worth of profit for the product, highly profitable product. And
And
it
how
would
much
take,
time is that?
what's that?
You said two shifts and 36 million, but two shifts over how much time is 36 million?
20 over a year, and
Okay,
that would be 22 people.
gotcha.
So, and my experience has been you never run a plant at more than say 80 to 85 percent production, because not only if you don't maintain your equipment, you will have equipment failure, and
Sure.
if you don't maintain your people, you will have people failure.
Mhm.
So I run 85 is kind of my sweet spot, and so I'll run that. That's what I run. So and I take there's people that have worked at the plant that probably are 27 years old and never had a job. I
Mm,
can teach them how to do this,
mm.
and they'll get a regular paycheck.
So the plan that I'm hearing is for expansion, it's IP licensing. And then production can happen in places that are not your main plant. But
Right.
then outside of that, the go-to-market strategy is aiming at governments or large productions so that they can either grab the IP, produce themselves, or just buy directly from your plant for delivery. Is that correct?
Yeah, and what you have to remember in whatever business you're in, you got to be close to your raw materials. So at one time, I owned a big grinding wheel company, and it was right by Niagara Falls. Why? Because that's where all the grain came from for the grinding wheels.
Exactly.
And so people ask me, why aren't you making that up in Detroit? But because I'd have to haul one of my ingredients called bagasse, which is the reason for a lot of the tonnage. I'd have to haul it back up there to Detroit and then make it and then ship it back wherever it was being sold in the country. Doesn't make
Right.
sense. So you got to be close to your raw material. So will we have more plants in the United States? Yes, we will. And will it be our plants? It depends on whether you have if you're a sugar mill and there's, I think, 12 of them in the United States, um, I'd have to talk to you about do you want it do you want it to be your factory? I don't really I've owned so much machinery and equipment over the years that I'm not excited about that. But at the same time, if I can tell you as a CEO that if somebody could screw you, they're gonna. And they'll turn around and look at you and say, well, that's just good business. You'd have done the same thing. No, I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have done the same thing.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
so don't leave yourself open for that. At the
Mm,
same time, you can't put your hand around something so tight that you choke it.
mm,
So it's a delicate balance.
yeah.
And so what would I look at? I'd look at in the United States, I would look at other sugarcane plants that we could probably own it because I could control it. I could go to that plant. Um, the if you come down to Louisiana, you're going to see mountains, and I mean mountains of product, and you can smell it before you see it, just like a feedlot. A lot of the people that live around it have lung problems,
Mm,
and that's all the bacteria in the air. So could we own factories at every one of the sugar mills? Yeah, that would be practical, and that's what I would
mm,
want to do. Um, they would love to find a way to utilize bagasse for, especially for anything, for animal feed or whatever, because landfills won't take bagasse. It doesn't degrade,
it
but it
doesn't.
does. It does when I do it.
Mm.
So, so that is the. We have many areas that we can experience growth. It's
Mhm.
just, that's what I'm saying. I hope that screw flies are something that the government gets excited about because we have the answer.
I like that. I wanted to ask one last question before we go to questions from folks in the audience. And if you guys are enjoying this, just put some emojis in there. If you love the stories, if you love the simple wise sayings, stuff like that that he's been doing. Mark, it's really been a delight to kind of talk to you. I just want to say that before I ask this last question.
Thank you.
Um, when we look at CEOs, we're really looking at leaders, people who are good at not just being able to understand the numbers, but understand the main goal, replicating themselves. And it really does come down, in my opinion, to the philosophy of leadership that they, have for themselves. So could you share just for a moment about the philosophy that you have on leadership and the mission that drives IFUS?
Yeah, I can. Um, as I said earlier, it is teaching that your product has gives people hope. So,
Mm,
for instance, these ranches that are going out of business, the small ones, they need hope, and I can give it to you. And people that are sick, and a lot of them are sick because of their food, I can give it to you. I can help you. I'm not a cure all, but I can help you. And if you haven't tried Intact Digest or even Intact Endurance for athletes, it's a phenomenal product. And so when I start looking at that, the agricultural product, I can help you grow your garden from small to big, and it just put it on like a mulch.
mm,
And for chickens, we call it's called Supreme PA. Chickens do eat bagasse, and you'll see it everywhere you go because the chickens and the ducks and the geese are all walking around where the cattle eat. And what are they eating? They're eating corn and SGP plus. And there are studies that show that they will gain weight from eating it. So so that's my philosophy is I could do this to the day I'm gone if I'm giving people hope. And you
love
were
it.
talking earlier about the family members and so forth. That's that'll drive me till I can't sit on a couch. If I could get up and give somebody hope, if I
Yeah.
could give your dog hope that it's not going to be scratching and having smells and everything else. I mean, when you give I just got to give you some advice because I love my dogs.
Yeah.
So if you give a dog for every 40 pounds, you give them 4 drops in their food. That they will get rid of the itching. They will go to the bathroom differently. They will be bouncing around like the dog you remembered. They won't have all that itching that because they're reacting to the food.
Mm.
The average bag of dog food has to be able to sit on a shelf for 3 years with no bacteria. Well, give me some of that. I don't. So if I can give hope, and whatever job you get into, look at how much better job you do if you have hope in what you're doing.
I like it. I like it. Okay, here's the round for all the folks. Just some quick questions. We have a question, and it's what's the best way for ranchers to get your product? Are they
Uh,
safe
you can
for
call
common
what?
farm animals? And I think he kind of talked about cats and dogs and goats. It seems like it's safe for pretty much anybody who takes it. But where can people go to get their hands on your product?
Okay, if we're talking about intact digester endurance, you can go to the website impactfusionbrands.com and you can order it right off there. You'll get it within days. And if you use 18 free, you'll get free shipping.
I love it. I love it.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Say that
And,
website one more time so that everybody gets a chance.
okay, it's
Uh-huh.
impactfusionbrands.com.
Love it. Love it. Thank you very much.
All right. And then
Eric would like to ask, oh, I'm sorry.
if you want to get the other products like the cattle feed products, the SGP Plus,
Yes.
you can call 1-800-775-4130 and you can order it there. And we ship it both in bales or we can ship it in super sacks. And and if anybody needs pricing on that, I can give that to you we can give that to you when you call. Also, the agricultural products, the Supreme AG, you can get that in a bale, or you can get it in super sacks. And if you want to use a test, I call it a 5 gallon pail, but it comes in a bag, but it's equal to a 5 gallon pail. You can buy one of those and test it at home on your plants. You'll see your plants come to life. They have the same nutrient requirements that all of us have. Your
Yes,
dog,
they
your
do.
cat, the humans, and we're not getting it. So you'll see a lot of plants that are dormant for a long time all of a sudden come to life. And I mean, you don't have to wait 6 months. It's in weeks. sometimes
Right.
days. So,
I love it. I love it. Eric wants to ask, do we still have 100% customer retention?
um,
That's a very tough question because
yeah,
who,
yeah. I guess
100,
my hesitation is only what product line. So,
yeah,
so if
gotta
we're
be a
talking,
little,
yeah, if
yeah,
we're talking about the Intact Digest, or Intact Endurance, yeah. I mean that product line is getting more and more and more customers. I've got one health food store called Health Hut in Mobile, Alabama. They got two stores, and
uh,
they're growing like a weed. And so yes, we have customer retention there. The SGP Plus, we have customer retention for there. I mean, it's 100%.
sure.
And for the AG, that's just getting off the ground. So it's not something that I could say that I understand the customer flow yet, but
Right.
it's moving very quickly. I tell people it's like grabbing me around the neck and pulling me, and so so yeah, we have good customer retention.
Wonderful. I have another one from Not the Mama. Shout out to Not the Mama. How big is the market for gut health and ADHD supplements worldwide? If you are familiar with, that sort of number right offhand.
Yeah, we're looking at 58 million.
Mm,
It's huge. Um, the average, and you can't OD on our product, by the way. I got to say that. So for the average supplement industry is growing rapidly because people understand that they're not healthy and they want to get healthy. So that industry is growing so rapidly. I think the numbers that I got today from one of my girls was 58 million.
wow.
Yeah,
It's enough. It's enough meat on that bone.
give me
Um,
10%.
not bad. Um, Next question. Rufus says, I'm on my second bottle. Will it work on St. Augustine sod in South Florida?
Ask the question again.
Rufus says, I'm on my second bottle.
Yeah.
Will it work on St. Augustine sod in South Florida?
I would say that the answer would be yes. And I've got a lot of people that are using it in South Florida. Um, don't overwater it. I had one girl up in Oregon. She says, "Well, I got it on my plants, but the plants are starting to turn colors like they're dying." Well, it was obvious what she was doing. She was watering the hell out of it, and the thing had too much water. You don't need to do that. A byproduct of lignin, which is SGP plus, breaking down is water. And
Mm,
what is in the water? 38 amino acids. That's incredible. That I've got stuff in the plant, and I had to make a rule that delivery is now 2 weeks on SGP plus because I can't have it in the plant too long because it starts degrading and then creating water. And it's an incredible technology. I mean, can you
mm.
imagine breaking down lignin and having 38 amino acids, which is the building blocks of our bodies?
It sounds exciting to me. We got one last question, and this last question is from Art, and Art's question seems to be a little bit inside. So you let me know if it's a little bit out of bounds for you. I don't want you to say anything that makes you uncomfortable.
I won't.
Did Mr. Schmidt, I believe is the name, did Mr. Schmidt actually talk to Secretary Rollins at the White House dinner about SGP plus for screw flies?
Secretary Rollins took off to the border, as you read, but
Yes.
I've got pictures of him with Ted Cruz
Hmm.
and all the people involved, including the one person that was in charge next to the secretary. And I think sometimes that's the people that get work done. Is he was in charge of screwworms. So they were all excited about screwworms. That's one of the reasons why we got invited up there, is that thankfully Robert was and his wife are very active in the Farm Bureau, and
Hmm.
they were at a Farm Bureau meeting, which a lot of USDA guys were there, and a lot of A&M people were there. And at that meeting, they actually okayed that they could study our product at Texas A&M.
Mm,
So, um, and if I had all the testing that I would have had to do on our product done at a college like Texas A&M, not only would I have to stand in a big line, it would cost me probably 500,000 to $1 million.
yeah,
So, you have to get help to study these things. Now, what made them study our product? No flies and no screw flies. So they were excited. So now they're studying our product, and they should have delivered more manure yesterday. And I always kid them that they got to deliver a bunch of crap up to A&M, but they're studying that, and I hope that it shows what we've been telling them, that you can eliminate flies, you can eliminate screw flies, and there's a scientific reason for it. Uh,
right.
so, anyways, and if anybody wants to look up why, it's not only furfurols, but it's called flavonoids, and it's in our product.
I love it. I
So,
love
and even when you use our agricultural product, you will not have any bugs, and you will not have any blemishes on your fruit, and your fruit will have a taste that you remember when you were a kid. Even the grapes, we're growing grapes, not only at Southern, but at our ranch, our test facility in Raceland. Um, the fruits are phenomenal. The plants are you put a rose right next to a bush that didn't have the mulch called Supreme AG, and it's like a different bush. No bugs, no mold, and anyways, that's my story on that.
it. Man, I really, really appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time out to talk to us about Impact Fusion, about the company, about your story, about the passion that you have. I think so often, for me at least, the bottom line justifies about everything that a CEO will do. And it's so good to see somebody who is conscious with the real story, talking about things like hope and talking about giving hope with the products that they have created and with the skills that they possess. To me, that's very inspirational and very exciting because it's not all about the bottom line, even though we're going to turn a profit. Let me just say that. Even though we turn a profit, it's not all about the bottom line. I love hearing that sort of thing. Everybody, I'm sure we can keep going all night with questions, but I got to be respectful of time. Would you all please do me a favor one more time and just thank yous all in the chat, muscle ups in the chat, fire emojis in the chat, everything for Mr. Marc Walther. Thank you so much for the time. I truly appreciate it. Thank you, Mark.
Okay. Even while we were talking, people were ordering product and I could see it.
Oh yeah, folks are going to be ordering. I
Yeah.
think that you all should grab a bottle. I've heard some crazy things. I didn't ask the question that I was gonna ask. Well, I mean, it's my Zoom. I should just ask it, right? Is it
Yeah.
okay if I'm just gonna ask it? Somebody told me to ask you about your product and cancer results.
Um, that's a tough one. I would love to answer that question.
Let's
And
play. Let's play like it's nobody here except me and you, Mark. Let's do that. This
I
part will never make the final edit. It'll never go anywhere.
well,
But
if you want to read something that I probably read 10 times, and I think it's about 9 pages. You can get it on the internet, and it's called TNF alpha and superoxide, mastic, and cancer.
TNF alpha.
Mastic, superoxide, mastic, and cancer.
Okay.
And that's all I can say. I can't claim a cure because that's against the law.
Right, of course. Of course. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. A thousand thank yous, Mark. I really appreciate it. Everybody, Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you all coming out, listening, hearing it out. This was so special. The first time we've ever done anything like this in this community. I'd like to thank everybody who asked a question and all of those who decided that they were going to just share some time, tune in, jump into the chat. This is a very, very exciting product. And for me, a very, very exciting type of CEO. When leaders have hearts, we can get excited because the vision is not just about money, it's about a mission. And it's about helping folks, giving hope, not false hope, just real hope.
Yeah.
So go to the website, read the papers, go check on the stock symbol, go get excited about this company, a real company doing work that we need. Like literally, we need. If you enjoy steaks, if you enjoy cattle, if you enjoy a natural, healthy way of living, I mean, this is the type of product that you should be excited about. All right, guys. As always, I'm going to sign off the same way. Clock on the wall says that's about all. We've enjoyed you all and had a ball. But boom, boom, skeet, skeet. That's it. Your boy Jay's got to split. I just gave you the permission to unmute yourself. So just let me hear real fast. We all we got, but that's cool.
Because
We
we
are what
all
we
we
need.
need.
We all
Yeah.
thank you.
Much love to the bullies and absolutely no one else. I'll talk to you guys next time. Tomorrow's open trade room. Make sure you get the link so that you can join us in the open trade room tomorrow at 8:20 a.m. Eastern. If you don't have that link, either hit me on Slack or DM, or if I don't want to get 1,000 DMs, let me just go grab the link for you right now. Grabbing the link, open trade room link is this one. Okay. Open trade room link is now in the chat. Click it, click it, click it. We'll be on and cracking tomorrow in the morning. All right.
All
Let's
right,
go.
peace out.
Mark.
Thank you, Jay.
Much love, True.
Love you,
Thank
brother. I know I ain't been
you.
on here, but I love you, man. Appreciate you.
Oh, much love, man. Much love. All right, guys. I'll see you guys in the morning. Take care.
Peace.
Take care.